Okay. So everyone up here went to Mega Camp, and we have just asked them to pull a few of their ahas from what they learned, you know, little tidbits that they might be implementing in their business. And it also allows you guys at the end to be able to ask questions. So I think we're going to start with Jacob on that end to share some of his ahas right away.
Okay.
You are going first.
I think the main thing, that the market is always big enough for you to achieve your, no matter the market.
Yeah, you gotta talk really loud. Say that again, that was a good takeaway.
The market is always big enough for you to achieve your goals. In 2023, there were 44,000 transactions in the market between 88,000 sides. Plenty of business for us to go get.
Is that million or thousand? Yeah.
And the average, does
Doesn't
anybody?
seem like enough for Ben.
Yeah. That's not enough.
Did you want more than 88,000?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I figured, but that's still a lot, that's your point.
But let's talk about that a little bit. What is does anybody know what the average, Kevin, you might know this, the average amount of transactions that an agent does?
Isn't it averages 8, medians 5?
Correct.
Maybe
So
NAR,
like,
too, like a NAR stat.
you what?
That was NAR.
I know what's up.
It's like something.
It's low, right?
Super
So
low.
like, when you think about that and you think about like the opportunity and how many agents there are, and if that's the average, right? There are agents that are taking a ton, and I mean a ton of market share. I cannot tell you how many agents we saw up on that board that were doing all the way from, you know, I mean, and they had people that were doing 25 transactions, and they had people that were doing 30 transactions and 35 to get what they were doing. But then there were agents that were doing 500 to 1,500 transactions, right? And obviously those are teams, but they weren't gigantic teams, quite honestly. I mean, these were people that were just in their lane, and they just stayed in the lane and kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And in my opinion, from like those stats, when you looked at the people that were up there, some of them I was like, what? How do you do that much business? Like, they weren't like flashy. They weren't even like super like personable. It was almost like, man, I probably would not work with that person, but they found their people and they've done it really, really well. Would you guys agree with that? Like, there was like
For sure.
every
Crazy
type
big business.
and every type of like human being doing crazy types of business. So
And a lot of them were very new in.
yeah,
Very.
yeah.
Right.
And by new, we mean less than 5 years, right? So it's not like, oh, these people have been in it for 20 years. I don't think there was actually many of them that have been in it for more than 8 years.
Right. There were a
Quite
lot that
honestly.
were at the 4-year point and doing big business, so.
Yeah. I mean, I call him a kid. He's probably like Jacob and Alex and Ben's age. But
Hey, hold on now.
in the
That's a 7-year gap.
So you're like a baby.
7 years is a fourth of my life.
He was profiting $2.2 million profiting on flips. Like
An investment.
investments. It was insane. Like, and he could not have been any older than 28. I don't think.
Younger than that.
And
Yeah.
he's like, this is part of my 30-year plan. And he's like, I'm 2.1 years ahead of the plan by what the profits that I'm already making.
Based on his 30-year net wealth
Goal. It was insane. I mean, like when you go there and you see that, and like he like just spit out exactly what his system is and why he does it. So if it didn't fit into his equation, then he listed the property. If it fit into his equation, then he purchased the property and he'd flip it, he'd rent it, he'd short-term rent it. There's 3 different ways that he would end up utilizing.
Worksheet might be a good one to share with people.
Yeah, yep.
So all of,
Absolutely.
I love that. That's such a good segue, Alex. So all of the one-pagers from the whole panel of people who spoke, you can go on to connect. You can just type in that search bar, Mega Agent Camp, and then below that will say one-pagers, and you can click on everybody's one pager.
Like
That's
each of the
what-
different speakers.
Yep.
And they're all very different and awesome.
Yep, and they tried to keep them all to one pages. There was only one person, they said they had to make it 2 pages. But, everyone else, like their system and their plan and what they do is, it's all on like one page, like one front and back, but his is really good.
And I would say with that, like, I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how to do an open house, or I don't know what they do. Go find that one pager and it legitimately says, we door knock 100 homes, we call 100 homes on Monday, we do this on Tuesday, we do this on Wednesday, we do this on Thursday, and this is how we run the open house. Like, it could not be more laid out, for you as an agent, which is kind of new, because they didn't always do that at Mega Camp. And now everyone that's spoken, it actually shows their plan, it shows what they do and how you can implement it into your business.
One of them had an ice cream truck that would come to all their open houses and you just paid per scoop. They said it usually wasn't more than like $350, I think is what they said,
Yeah.
per open house. And they get so many leads and the kids realize that, you know, their logo results in getting ice cream. So like the whole family's talking about it when they see the open house signs and marketing for those open houses.
And the neighbors could come to that, like, everyone could come to it, you didn't even have to go to the open house. Like, it was just an ice cream truck that was sponsored by them every single time.
I don't know any ice cream trucks that cheap for us here, but hopefully we can find some because that'd be super cool.
Yeah. Or maybe that's a business that one of you could start up. Just saying.
Those, each of the people's plans is, not all of them are, they're in that MREA playbook, volume 2.
Oh, got it. We have those on order.
Yeah. All right, any other takeaways for you, Jacob? Awesome.
So I thought it was interesting. I don't know if I have these numbers right. It was one of the first slides that they talked about, is that 38% own of the people who have owned homes, own them outright. And 38%, and
Yep.
76% owners have 50% or more equity in their house.
Yeah.
That's a ton. I just thought that was really high.
And most
kind
of those
interesting.
people probably think that their house is worth less than it is because they've been there so long and are not familiar with the market.
Also, that allows the opportunity for them to use equity to potentially buy a rental property or a second home.
Right. Totally. Lots of different places.
Like, there's a lot of
to play
different
with
things that you can actually talk about in that aspect of like, how do you utilize that number, right?
What was the percentage for the 50%?
76% of owners have 50% or more equity. Might be worth verifying on the slides, but I think that's right.
I think that's right.
Let's see, the stuff that spoke to me a lot was about the social media aspect. They say you should be posting a video every day. To just a still picture, they're like, post videos. I know Courtney will talk about this. Yeah. Posting a video, whether it's a reel, a video, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be action, but like, they're like, literally, don't even review your video if you're not gonna post it because you don't like it. They're like, just post it. Make the video, post it.
It's more authentic.
They're like, you should be posting these on YouTube, and the thumbnail is super important. They're like, the thumbnail is almost more important than any aspect of getting those clicks kind of thing, and have a tagline that is very catchy, like super clickbaity, do it, even if it's negative, which I'm not used to negative things like that. But like the worst things in Minneapolis are like something that's like catchy. Make getting reviews super easy. So like, you know, a website that you can just verbally share out loud. That's like reviewdpt.com kind of thing. So you can just tell it, send it. I mean, we do a QR code, which kind of similar, but they're like, just make it super easy to be able to get your reviews. Get your reviews. There's like focus on Google. Google's the #1 place to be. They're like Zillow reviews on other places can get wiped out so easily at some point. And get bought up. They're like, focus on Google. That's where most everybody goes for reviewing the reviews.
Did they say anything about like replying to the reviews?
We didn't talk about that, but there might
Probably
be
a
some
really
really
good
good
idea.
about it. It probably can't hurt. Yeah, we should probably do that. Yeah, I know we need to.
I was wondering.
We're back to the YouTube.
Yeah. So posting all your, like, any videos that you do,
Right.
post them on YouTube as well.
Right, but then you said there was a,
Thumbnail.
yeah,
Yep, so that's like the image for the video kind of thing.
Oh,
So, like,
got
if
it.
People are scrolling, it'll be like an attractive piece of artwork or something, like something that's really catchy versus like a black thing, like just a black, blank square with like text on it, or like do something that's catchy. I don't know exactly what that is yet, but they're like even look at people who are really successful on YouTube that aren't in real estate, be able to see like what's working, what's successful for them. And on a different topic, focus was like speak from knowledge and just know your stuff so that when you're asked a question, you're not thinking of that answer in that moment. Try and predict as much as you can so that you just know the market really well, that you can speak from knowledge was kind of that focus. So kind of a random tidbit. That's what I got.
Else up? All right, okay. Cool, here we go.
You're up.
Let's see, videos, yes, do videos. Yes, and like, you can say the negative things in the titles, which sounds like super, like, nothing we've ever done before, but I think something that sounds like it works really well.
Can we just be honest about that? Who clicks on like really positive things, and then when you see something really negative on like media, you're like, oh, I need to know more, right? Like, that's like human nature, is you're like, ooh, tell me the drama,
So like a
right?
negative on the house?
No,
Or
it'd be like
Like
the
for
high cost of
local-
homes right now, you know, cause that would be like.
Reasons not to buy a house.
Got it.
Yeah.
Why
Reasons
people-
not to sell a house,
Right.
right?
Why people don't like Minneapolis. Anyway, that's maybe too close to home, 'cause there's good.
Okay, I live there, thank you.
I went down a little rabbit
So
hole.
one of the
I hear what you're saying.
things people hate about living in Minneapolis. Could be a
It
title.
wasn't
Things
exactly.
that you hate about living anywhere, in any city you want.
It actually doesn't have to be a negative article or a negative video. It's just to like capture it, right? Like, what are the negative things about blah, blah, blah? And then the first part of the video is like, nothing. These are all. the
If you don't wanna
reasons
build
why
up
should, like,
equity, you
Right,
don't
because
want
you
to.
actually
Yep.
love living here.
Yeah, the
Minneapolis-
video doesn't have to
it's
be
the
negative. The
tagline.
tagline has to be
Negative
negative.
focus tagline is juicy.
Okay, use
Take that
AI for more than you can even think that you can use AI for, use it for. Try whatever it is that you're working on, like Jacob and I were working on something, and he threw what we were working on in AI, and I'm like, well, that was a lot easier than what I was doing.
That's a
So
good
like,
starting point.
it was a great starting point. It was,
It's not perfect,
great.
but it
No,
gets
but
you some
we're-
training, some meat and potatoes, yeah.
So just don't forget to keep that, everything. Let's see, your reach is more important than your results. So it's kind of like if you talk to one person at a coffee, which is great and all, if you can talk to 10 people at the same time, that's better, right? The same idea exists in online marketing, is like, it doesn't necessarily matter if you get a lead from that as much as, because not everyone's buying at every given moment. So your reach is more important than your results.
Whatever
So just
you're
keep
putting out
doing it and
there.
Focus on a big reach contacts database. They say that the best starting place is like, if you can get your database to 600, that was their sweet spot that they kept talking about. So just keep growing that to at least 600, keep growing it, of course. Gratitude cards and emails always. Keep doing it. Don't forget to do it. Share gratitude, love on people. Partner with vendors to help on events. It's something that we've actually never really done much of, but something that I think we'd like to work on more. I think we can do more events, help more people by partnering with vendors.
There were a lot of people that talked back to zero cost, annual zero cost for their events, even though they have 6 to 12 or more.
Lots of events.
Yeah.
Mind blowing to me. 'cause
Zero
we pay
cost.
for all of our events.
We probably spend over 20,000 a year on events, and it's like, you can get vendors to pay for a lot of this kind of stuff.
Let's see,
Interested compliant.
exactly, always, yes. Always say the line, or like, make sure people know, I can help you with any type of real estate anywhere in the world. Like, say that over and over and over, I can help you with any type of real estate anywhere in the world. Make sure they know that. And versus when they ask you, hey, can you help me with something, say, commercial, right? Instead of starting with no, be like, yes, I can help you with any real estate anywhere in the world. Make sure they know that so that they always come to you first, so that you can connect them with someone great.
Referral based kind of thing, get them connected, interview the people that are good options for them so that you do give them an awesome resource and keep coming back for referrals. Real estate and non-real estate as well.
The person asking the questions controls the conversation. Be the person asking the questions, ask lots of questions, learn lots about what their goals are, their motivation. Once you lose that control, you lose, it's harder to continue things forward. So just ask more questions than you've been thinking to ask. Let's see. Let the seller choose the price. This was kind of new to me as to how much they kind of talked about that. Because we're pretty adamant on like, this is what we advise. And I'd say more recently than ever, we've been the one advising the price for years, and most of our sellers go with it. And now we've been seeing some funky shifts in the market where our advised price hasn't been as successful as. So leaning a little bit more in on letting the seller choose.
Giving them the
price.
information and asking for them and being more adamant about getting their response on the price versus putting your price out there first.
Because when it comes to price reduction, then you didn't do something wrong
Right.
in advising them of the wrong price. The wrong price was selected.
Exactly.
And with gratitude and that conversation about a price reduction by thanking them that you get to help them, that you're honored to help them.
And then I think my last thing is when sellers ask how much we can get for the house, tell them that they should be asking us, how can I help you get more money for your house? That's the question. It's not how much can I get now, how much more money can I get for my house is the question they should be asking. So that we can help advise them. They'll sell easier, they'll sell for more. That's the question that almost matters more. That's all I got.
Great. Because it was a day and a half long and I have a page and a quarter of notes. Something that they said regarding your conversation with, for price reductions is, days on market is the enemy to your home's value. Leading off your conversation like that definitely helps them to understand. So one of the things that I guess I'm getting from you guys is that we sat in the same room. And I feel like I may have listened to a completely different, like I heard what they heard, and yet none of that stuff really connected with me because I don't have a video presence. I practically don't have much of an online presence. And that's how I do business. And I think if you look at all of the people from each of the panels, there would be some that are more like you guys, or maybe do business more like you guys. But you know, one of the takeaways was that open houses can be a really big way to get a lot of business, and yet most agents attack their open houses with like 5 signs and 1 per weekend. And each of the people that were using open houses as their lead generation tool were turning them into like large scale events. And what that looks like to take your business to the next level. So people were talking like 50, 75, 100 people through their open houses. I mean, that's like on a completely different scale than, going to an open house for a weekend and having, 3 to 5 people come through and maybe you talk to 2 of them have a real conversation and maybe pick up a lead every couple weeks or something. I mean, even you guys were saying that you're meeting 3 or signing or transacting business with like multiple people per open house. And you're not even doing everything that they're talking about. I picked up a couple things about offering home improvement loans to clients when they have work that needs to be completed on their house or on the home that they're selling and don't have money for it, what that can look like. There was a guy out of Canton, Ohio, Jose Medina, who had a whole system laid out for that. And that looks like something that we can implement immediately. They also talked about crafting your value prop, including your expertise, process, explaining the purpose, and discussing pricing and how that compares to your competitors. I think that's it.
Talk about the loan, because some of it was already wrapped into essentially getting paid at closing. So I think there's like a lot of people are like, well, I can't give a loan to my clients, or how do I do that? He was very, strategic and creative on how that happened, and essentially, those loans were paid off at the closing table.
Yeah, so if you were to do that, you sign a lien with the person that is taking the loan. And the lien is then paid when the property closes. If you're doing something like that, you have to have a lien signed. You really should do a title search or have a title search done before you actually record the lien and before you actually loan any money or lend any money. Gosh, I was thinking on something else with that too. Because it's a lien, it's paid, of course. You might specify exactly what the loan can be used for. Maybe that is a consideration, maybe not.
They also said like, sometimes if you have a good partnership, right, with the general contractor or somebody who can then float that, right? Like maybe they have a really good business and you have a good partnership with them. So they can do that and they can get paid at closing. So it doesn't really have to come from you or on like the real estate side, but maybe you have that good relationship with somebody who, and then they'll general contract it out, right? Like they'll figure that out if it's like a bathroom remodel, or we're gonna update the kitchen here. And then they can get paid at closing.
Right.
So they were like, you can also build relationships that way, to do that. I know we also had a vendor in here that came to mind, renovation cells or something like that. And they also do that same thing, right? They can get paid at closing. So it doesn't have to necessarily come from the real estate, perspective, which was kind of my takeaway, because I was like, oh, that sounds great if you have like a lot of money and can figure that out for your business. But how could just any agent go in and help, essentially like maybe get more money, to your point again, like how much more money can I make you if we do this, and this, and then this is how we could fund that, so.
Right.
Or you can set up something where the seller actually pays for materials, right? So if there's actual materials that need to be paid for, they can pay for that, and labor can be paid for at closing when you have those relationships, right? Because now they have skin in the game too. That it's not coming out of the agent. There's so many different creative ways of that.
Put a lien on any.
I've not done that. It's certainly come up as an objection plenty of times. We have had contractors do work, and agree to take payment, at closing, and they do put a lien against the property. I mean, that's really standard in like a contractor world, is getting a mechanic's lien against the property. If any of you were to actually do something like that, it is critical to get a listing of contract signed along with that lien, so that your lien isn't just attached to a property that's now not going to sell for maybe ever. Because I think a lien is good for like 7 or 10 years, something like that. And he said, if you have a lot, or whatever you said was about a lot of money, and you could do this by taking a line of credit and offering the same thing. A line of credit that you get from a bank, and then you run this system of lending people money. And you're gonna do it in a way that is, at least my thought is at least 20% interest, and it's probably like a 120-day loan. So are my initial thoughts. 30 days for them to have the work completed, 30 days to get it on the market, another 30 days to close, and 30 days just in case. But providing that solution that nobody else is likely to have talked to them about, so. Or offering it and then bring it to me and let me see if I can make it work, or something like that.
Well, I think just don't be afraid of thinking, like, if you know the market, you know your numbers, you know what you're doing, right? And you're confident in that. And part of that is just being in the market, right? Checking it every single day, seeing what's selling, seeing what acquisition is, seeing what construction costs are. Don't be afraid. I mean, when I first got in the industry, I raised a ton of money that was not mine and was guaranteeing a percentage to these people after a year. And that was terrifying. And it actually helped me build my wealth pretty quickly. So it's
right. And Candy, you had said bathroom remodel. mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a home where the issue really is that it appears dated. So you've got maybe wallpaper, but paint and flooring would essentially make the house 90% different, and that $10,000 is probably a $50,000 difference in the value of the home, taking it from either definitely investor purchase or highly likely investor purchase, maybe a enterprising homeowner purchase, to being a full-blown retail sale that anybody could buy and live in and update the kitchen and bath in a couple of years or whenever.
Just to kind of, go off of some of the things that you guys said, I definitely took that away with, they had a commercial team duo up there and they were like, as you're calling and talking, so like, always ask, like, I can be your agent for any real estate anywhere in the world and for any type of real estate. So when you're having those conversations, and I was just thinking about like Ford, like you talk about their work, like ask them about how their business is going, like you might find out like, oh, they're growing and they're looking for new retail space. Well, that's awesome. We have commercial agents here that could maybe help them with that, and you could get a referral off of that. So asking not just about, their residential, needs, but going beyond that. So I definitely took that away as well. And then someone else said about, talking about price reductions, and I can't remember who was talking about it, but she always talks to them as far as like the market. Like the market is telling us this, the market is telling us that, so when you're talking about where they should even price their house, refer it to like the market. Well, the market statistics are showing us this. So, where in this range do you think you'd want to go? And then go ahead.
They said to lead into your price reductions script was something along the lines of, Mr. Seller, the great news is that our marketing is working. We have received 292 views of your property in MLS in the last 7 days. The bad news or the difficult or the challenge we face is that the market is telling us that it does not want to buy your house.
Maybe this price.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
Eric, that was like verbatim to the script.
Yeah, was it? Nailed it.
Is how they had it, was the great news.
I was very impressed right now.
Got it.
I only have like 2 takeaways, but
The great news is our marketing is working. We're getting thousands of views online. It's not you, it's not us, it's not your house, it's the market. Based on what the market is telling me, you need to be priced at blank. I'm confident that will lead to an offer. Thank you again for choosing our team. I promise to get you top dollar, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it makes the market the bad guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the buyers the bad guy, it doesn't make you, it doesn't make our agents, it's the market.
Yeah. And I thought that was really relevant too, just as we've seen more places in our area, like staying on longer, we are seeing changes in the market for sure. And it's not to say that, when you originally had that conversation, like the market would, go for that price for this house, in this amount of time. But the market is changing, right? So always put it back on the market, which nobody has control over, right? And then the other thing, so, and you might end up talking about this, so
I don't know, I get a
I'll
lot.
just iceberg it, but Phil Jones talked about like really zeroing in on what type of client you want to work with or who you can service. Because in doing that, you'll also become the general person that people go to, but you'll also be the specific person that people go to. And so the one poor guy he called out in the crowd,
Which actually, this guy is a very top producing agent, like well-known top producing agent, that he went up to him, Gene Laurent, and asked him these questions. And this guy's been in the business for what, 10 years? Probably does,
like the bold poster boy.
yeah, like 65 to 100 million a year at least, probably, right? And Phil Jones comes up to him and he was like, which was interesting.
but and also like it was a great exercise then to watch because he zeroed in on like he wants someone who can move fast. So they, then they kind of, they narrowed it down to like, his perfect client would be someone that needs to relocate, has lots of money, needs to do it fast, and then all the ways that he could then service that client. So now he can really market to that relocation client, right? But in doing that, all these other people who are seeing him help this client also know that he could probably help them because they're just like selling their house at an average pace and whatever. So I thought that was really interesting of like really zeroing in on like who your client was. And then
Bill said, and I
Yeah.
don't even know if these are real words, but it's okay because he said it so beautifully, like in his accent. I was like, whatever. If you shoot for specialism, it's easier to pick up the generalisms. And I was like, I don't even know those are real words, but it sounds great. And it like
Yeah.
made sense, right? Because if you're honing in on a specific group, it will happen to spread at some point in time versus trying to be general and pick up everybody. And I think that's a huge thing. Everyone was very specific on what they did and who they worked for.
So then this ties into, so Kamie said yesterday, I went to an operations mastermind. I was fully like not, I was like the person in the room that had no idea what they were gonna be talking about, for sure.
Let's just say
Um,
you were slightly nervous to
I
go
was
to
a
it.
little nervous. Because they're smaller groups too. So you're gonna talk, it's a participation type setting. So it's kind of like, I don't know if I should be here, but I really want to learn from you guys. And so one takeaway that I took from that process that Phil Jones did with this guy, they were saying that operations, they help run like large teams, right? And their ops director or whatever. But they would go into like ChatGPT and they would say, hey, can you help me with this? And they ask ChatGPT if you can. And so some people might know this. Like I said, this isn't my world. Can you help me with this? And then what do you need from me to help me with this? And then ChatGPT is like, I need all these things. And then you can also ask ChatGPT to ask you like 20 questions on a topic. And one agent in there was using it to essentially like help them build their perfect client. So then they learned from like ChatGPT how to market them to that client. And so I thought this fully ties into this guy who, through Phil Jones asking him questions, figured out like, oh, this is how I could specialize my business. And now then what do I need to become that kind of specialist? And I was like, ChatGPT can help us find that out. Like, that's amazing. So if this is not news to everybody else, but I thought that was really cool because then they come up with like a whole marketing plan just by talking basically to ChatGPT, which is a little unnerving, I guess, to me. But like, how do I market to this specific person? And then in doing that, are also going to pick up like the general population. And then they make all their videos based on this avatar. So they're like, you can create a ton of different avatars. Like, let's say you want to, really specialize in this area, in this area, in this area. You can create all these different avatars through ChatGPT and then figure out how to market to all these different client bases. And they're using these tools. And I was like, that is incredible to zero in like that. So, and I thought that's something ChatGPT is available to everybody. So like, that was.
Tell me more about that. Do you use that?
So the avatar is basically like the perfect client that you create and you can give and so this person gives their clients names, like this is Will, this is Will's occupation, this is like their lifestyle. They have like 2 kids and a dog and whatever. And this is what they do for work. And then this person, is like an exec and once, has a condo and like all these, so they have like all these different, and they name the avatars.
And they have to, it's actual avatar, correct?
In ChatGPT.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So, something cool that I was like, wow, you could really experiment with that, right? And figure out, okay, how am I going to specialize? And just by having ChatGPT ask you, like, who do you want to work with? You can figure out your avatar and then go beyond that and figure out how to market to that type of avatar. And so I thought that was a really neat, thing that they were doing.
I've got one thing. So which we heard from multiple people share this similar story of how they kind of got started in real estate, where they were sending golden letters, right? Which is essentially just a letter saying, hey, do you want to sell your property, right? I've got someone looking, or just asking them simply, do you want to sell your property? It's not rocket science there. And sending it to landowners, for you to then have the opportunity to take that and develop it. You don't have to do the developing, but you bring it to a builder or a developer can develop it. And then you have a listing agreement with that buyer as well, the developer or the listing agent. I'm making it confusing. So we're gonna take a step back. You send the letter to the landowner, right? But then you go and find a buyer, a builder or a developer to purchase that property. So you kind of got both sides, or however you want to talk about it. And then you get to sell that property as well
Once it's
for the
developed.
builder, once it's developed. And ideally, then you're going to find buyers for that property. And then you're building relationships with not only the seller of the land, the developer, the builder, the buyer of the property, who might need to sell a house as well. So there's just like, that's one of the best ways, if you're gonna go target someone, go target landowners and build along the way. You don't necessarily have to have all those pieces in line right away, but start there and then the domino effect can happen. But you open yourself up to, I think, a huge opportunity there.
And just FYI, when you see Homer's numbers coming up on the board, that's how he started his business. If you ever talk to Jeff and Justin and you don't see them in the office often, and he's like, that's because we're going to find land. That's literally what they do. They go around and they find land and they find opportunity for developers to develop, to sell it, and then they get to actually list all of the luxury properties that are being built on it.
And then they're selling their existing.
So it works. That's not just like, I mean, you see the numbers on the board, 15 million in a month. It works.
Starting at the very top of the chain,
Yep.
right?
That's what Donovan does too. When you saw his numbers last month, he had 6 listings for, I can't even,
Go find landowners who want to sell.
Donovan's a good one to help with too.
Yeah, so those, I have,
What else do you have, Kate?
I know, I have like
Guess we're
so
good
much
note
still.
takers.
If, I'm kind of blown away by how many AI tools are out there that people are using. One that I haven't checked out yet, but I was talking to someone else about it too today. I think it could be, it's called Goblin, and it's a brain dump tool that people use. And I was like, that sounds really interesting. So you just put in all the things, really, like we want to do all these things, or this is what and then it assigns you task lists based on your brain dump.
Yeah, it's called Goblin or something.
Goblin. So I
No,
thought that
that's
was.
not gonna help with the goals, okay? Still need to focus on.
So I thought that was really cool. They also, use a couple of different, tools for creating, videos, and one, I think it's called, which one was it? Not description, probably you have tried it, Courtney. And so I can find the name of it here. But it basically like takes your videos and then rates them A, B, and C based on like your clientele, and it cuts them already into like 30 or 45-second increment, like little commercials. So you just put in like 5 minutes of talking or whatever, and then it spits out, these are where your like best videos, and it already has them cut into 30 and 45 seconds so that you could just go in and post them. And then it rates them based on like your history of like, this would be an A video for you, this would be a B video for you.
That one is.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll
that was-
put my glasses on and I'll read my
That's an
notes.
interesting one.
That sounded super interesting when they
Yeah.
were talking.
So. Oh, Otter AI, I think is what it's called. Otter.
TER.
So they didn't have the names actually up, so I haven't Googled these yet, but Otter, AI was the one. Goblin?
Can't seem to find that one.
I know, I can-
Goblin.tools, if you Google that.
Okay, thank you. And like I did, one of the things being in that room is that I grabbed everybody's card that I could, so, I was like, if I don't have it written down right, I know who does, so, if you guys are looking for more stuff, I'm happy to connect you with those people as well.
Oh, it's
So I
my
got-
turn. So I did mine, and like, mine's probably a little different because it's from more of a generalized leadership standpoint, but there are specifics I'll start with Phil Jones because you were talking about him. Number one, if there's a chance you can ever like see him live in person, you should do it. Like, I mean, we kind of had like a moment because we were in the hotel bar and Phil Jones was also in the hotel bar. And we looked at each other and I was like, should we go get a picture? And we're like, yeah. And then we got up to him and she's like, I don't really know what to say. And he's like, well, what would you say? I was like, I didn't practice that scenario. It was great. But he's really valuable in regards to, I mean, if you got into real estate, he could crush it. Like, and it really truly means he knows nothing about the industry, but what he does know is how to connect with people and to be able to communicate and ask the right questions. Like, he could crush it in any industry, quite honestly, because of that. Because he gets to the root of everybody's why, and it's seamless. So when he was talking to Jean Laurent in the audience, he asked, or he said that there's 3 questions that people really want answered, right? Have you done it before? Have you done it recently? And have you done it for someone like me? Right? So when you go into a buyer appointment or a listing appointment, those are the 3 things that most people are thinking, no matter what it is. Have you done it before? Have you done it recently? And have you done it for someone like me? And if you were to think about that, that's usually what you think of when you go to somewhere as well. Like, have you done this before? How often do you do this? And have you done it for me, right? I already went through the fun specialism versus generalism. But then he was talking about the wave of the market, right? Things shift and change, and the wave can do a few different things, right? It can completely take you down. And I think we've talked about this in market, like about the market and not rolling with the market. So the wave can completely drown you and you're out. Or you can run with the wave, right? Or the other option is you grab a surfboard and you ride it and you have a ton of fun while doing it, right? So you ebb and flow with it and you do whatever you do when you surf, because I've really never gotten up on a surfboard successfully. But I could see that being a really good thing for us as things are shifting in this market. The other thing from him, actually, I don't think it was from him. It was from Rory Vaden, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Rory Vaden, but he gave a really great thing about social media or just in general marketing. And it was, is it the whole equation was results times reach equals reputation, right? And I think a lot of times people focus on the result. Like, I need the results before I can talk about it so that my reputation is there. A lot of new agents or agents that aren't feeling confident, no matter if they're new or veteran in the business. And he gave the example of Michael Phelps, and I honestly do not remember the woman's name, who is also just as decorated of a
Exactly the
Speaking
point.
of the
yeah, her, right? And he's like, okay, so she actually has better results than Michael Phelps. But who did I know? I knew Michael Phelps, and it was because of the reach. It wasn't because of the results of the 2 of them, right? It was because of the reach that Michael Phelps had. Whether or not, you know, in that industry, it's very different. So it's truly, you know, it says if people don't know about you, they aren't going to know, or they can't do business with you, right? So it's like the secret agent. So don't worry about the result. Like, reach as many people as you can, and it all equals out in the end.
Cheapest way is social media. Reach a lot of
Truly is. The other thing, I think this was an afternoon session with Gary, but it hit me in 2 different ways. There's 2 different parts of it, and it said partnership versus passenger, and which relationship are you having with your client? Right? So do we take them along as a partnership? Like, how do we frame it with them as a seller and a buyer? Is it a partnership, or is it just a passenger along the way? And I think that mindset can be completely different when you're treating them as more of a partnership versus, hey, come along and I'll take you on this journey. Or it would be, hey, let's do this journey together. And then the market, Gary had mentioned this, the market never dictates the goal, or maybe it wasn't, I don't remember, maybe it was one of the mega agents. It just may shift the plan and the things that you need to, the things that need to be done. Which I think was evident yesterday, right? Like, when you think of the market, if you are doing the right things and the right activities, you're gonna outpace the market every single time. The market doesn't have to dictate whether or not your business will go up or down.
While you're looking at that, Opus Pro is the other one to look at for real caption clips.
I thought this was really cool because sometimes people are like, Opus.
This is my writing. I haven't looked them up. I apologize. I didn't do my due diligence,
Thanks
so.
for finding it. Yeah.
She's like, wait. Opus is what I.
That's what's written.
Talking about specializing, there was a few different things that people talked about, but this one woman, to anyone, Maureen actually came to mind for this. This woman connected with the school, right? And all the schools that her kids went to, right? And she was like, she helped, I don't even know if she was in the PTA. I don't know if she just knew all the teachers and she knows the principal and the people that did all the tours. But when the kids came through, like there was a phone call that someone was either transferring to the school or registering for the school, they had been set up, the school, the high school, the middle school was set up to say, do you have any real estate needs? Because we have a preferred agent for you. And they connected her with every person that called into that school. Like, genius, right? Because they're getting people's names and numbers all the time. And what happens? People have to, a lot of times in like June and July, people are trying to get into homes, right? To get into school districts. And they're calling and asking these questions. And they had been trained by her to ask the right questions to get her the information. And she'd give them a call and say, hey, I hear that you're going to be transferring to this school or looking at the school. Do you have any real estate needs?
She got there by like extreme amount of contact and involvement
Yep.
for a good period of time, like years. It was I think it was a K-12 school.
Yeah.
And her children had gone through that. And she participated in their lives. Children no longer attend the school. She's still.
They didn't have, and they also didn't have sponsorships at this school. Like, you know how there's banners and stuff? And she essentially asked them, can I sponsor? Can I put money into the school so that my banners are at the football stadiums, the soccer stadiums, whatever? Like, she just made it happen. This was not something that was there ever before. And that's her main source of her main source of business is from this particular school. And it doesn't have to be a school. So if you're like, I don't have kids, it just said like, know your community, right? So if you live, for me, I'm like, I should know everything that's happening in Linden Hills always, right? Like there's construction. When is that stopping? When is that starting? What's the new businesses coming in? Know your area so well that when you're talking to people, you're like, hey, this new restaurant's coming in October, 2024. And be the one that tells them about it, right? So be your community expert, truly. Like that's your jobs, right? That was another thing. Gary, maybe not the entire time, but at least 2 days wore the do the work t-shirt. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like when I say it's your job, right? And he wore this shirt and it was said over and over and over and over again. You just have to do the work. Like, there's no easy button. There's no like, this is just going to happen for you. Yeah. I have like 5 other things that I could share, but it's always the right time to buy real estate. It's always the right top of the moment, not the top of the market, right? So I think a lot of people try to ebb and flow, like, oh, I don't want to buy at the top of the market. You don't know when the top of the market is. And there's never truly a top of the market because it will go down and it'll come back up. And maybe for that tiny moment, it's the top. But it could be the right time for you if it's the right property, it's the right motivation. So, what else? You guys have anything else? Oh, I have one last closing thought. This was part of the CEO summit actually, and they were talking about technology. And it was like, what's the number one trend that shapes generation? You guys know what that is? Number one trend that shapes generation. I'll give you like 3 guesses, 5 guesses.
Rock concerts,
Nope,
But I like.
ball pits.
nope.
Keep going, I like where your head's at. We gotta get to 5, start throwing some out there.
That what, does what? for
The
generation?
number one trend, so Jason Dorsey is a researcher, right, on different trends and whatnot. And the number one trend that shapes generations is,
Technology, new technology.
oh, not the number one. The number one is actually parenting, right? So, and then trend number 2 is technology. But he went very in depth about the generations and what the generations need, in regards to real estate, right? Because this is one of the only industries that actually affects all generations, right? Because you're having kids, that's a different generation, that's why people move. It's the only industry that there's someone in each generation that's actually contributing to the reason why people move. But the part of technology was, technology is only new if you remember it the way it was before. So he was talking and he gave the example of his daughter, which is very similar to my kids. He calls his daughter every day and she's 13, but the only way that she truly believes that she's making a phone call is through FaceTime, right? That's all she's ever known since she's had a phone is FaceTime. She never knew what it was like to not have a cell phone. She never knew what it was like to have a phone on the wall that had the big stretchy cord so you could sit in the closet and hide from your parents. Like I did, right? Like cell phone was like a new thing for us. But it's, and part of that is, if there's not a context for it, they don't believe that it's new, right? So when we think about this new change in commissions, people from August 17th moving forward, if they were not in the market, it's not new. So the more that you talk about that being new, they have no context for what the old was. 0 context. So the more that you sit there and make a big deal about it, right, is more confusing to the people that are from here moving forward because they have no idea what it was. And I thought that was really interesting because I'm like, it's so true. Like my kids will never know what it was to not have an iPad. Give it another 5 years and it's going to be something completely different, right? So just take that for what it's worth. And
To follow up on that, like a similar example is like bringing up the NAR loss at like a listing of, and half the people, kind of like we were talking about, like they don't know a thing about it, and you just opened up something that was probably unnecessary, right? So kind of only addressing it as it comes up, because it might not be in their world, right?
yeah, yep.
But stuff there.
Because then they say, no, what's that?
Everything was fine.
Is there anybody else in the room who's always had somebody shadow them on other appointments?
Darn it, shadow.
The other thing that was interesting from the CEO summit, and Jason was really, Jason Dorsey was great. He was phenomenal. It says, the reason that people don't do something is more powerful than the why they do something. So when you're thinking about it, why are people not going to choose me is really the problem that you should be solving, right? Why would someone not choose me? And I think when we think about that, a lot of times it's going to be your confidence or your knowledge base. So number one, how are you going to improve those 2 things? How are you going to become more knowledgeable? And how are you going to become more confident? Because it's more important for you and to learn from why they don't choose.
Do you find that the reason is because they're dumb?
Well, some people, when they think of different things in different ways, yeah, you could come to that conclusion, right? But those are my little takeaways, my nuggets. Any questions? We have 1 minute to
Go
spare.
again?
What?
Yes, sure, go again.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you would go again.
We'll go again.
What was your highlight?
Keep your hand up if you will go again. There you go.
Well, on that note, before you ask that question, family reunion, and I know it's early to talk about it, but it's happening in February. And we learned a lot, but we had a really good
It was
time.
fun.
I mean, it was fun. And
For sure.
I mean, we went out to dinner together multiple nights, like it was a good time.
It's fun, kind of the work aspect too, and it's a good change of pace and for business reset kind of thing, and
Yeah.
get to know people better and in different ways than normally do.
Made Derek scooter with me. It was great.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I literally made him. So
Broke
that was fun. But there's a different part of it that, you know, you get to connect with people in a different way. So in regards to family reunion, it's happening in February, and I highly recommend signing up and just going. It's in Vegas. I mean, I mentioned it yesterday. Derek's like, you know, it's always one of those where I'm like, I don't want to spend the money. I don't have the time. And then when you're there and you actually get what you get out of this and the value, you're like, I would have never made a different choice.
I've never heard people regret going to any of the events like those.
No,
They-
no, it's just a matter of making the leap. Like just jump and do it. Tickets are probably cheaper right now. So yeah. And
Get
again,
in early.
go share rooms. Like that is not unheard of. Like
You're not
find
in the
a
room that
friend.
much, like, we aren't in the room hardly at all.
No, I mean, Candy's now shared with me twice and yeah.
And I'll do it
Still
again.
Yeah, she keeps coming back. I mean, if John,
It starts at 8 in the morning. You're out until 9 or 10
I
and you're
just brought-
tired, like you're exhausted. So it's not like,
Yeah.
so share a room. It's great. It's a great opportunity to, save money and
Yeah.
still experience it.
February 11th, I want to say.
I think
No.
it's after.
Oh, it's
Oh, it's after,
Valentine's.
it's after Valentine's Day.
17th through 21st.
17th through the 21st in Vegas. And the earlier that you guys commit to it, the more fun that we can have, because then I can actually put reservations into places, or if we want to do a group event. If it's like last minute, it's harder for us to get everyone into a venue, or if we were gonna go to a concert, you know what I mean? Like, we can do fun things or go for a hike or whatever it is. So the earlier we can plan that, the better, for us to do things as an office as well. I'm going. Candy's going. Heather's going.
Oh,
Derek's
put his
going.
hand up.
No pressure.
No pressure.
I just already- I already
You asked
said.
a question, you were asking what the highlight of it was.
Pretty cute.
Getting to know these guys better. I would say.
I second that. I really liked the online stuff. Like, I get reminded of it every day, and not every day, but a lot. Like, just need to post it.
And I'd say care less about what it is, the activity that matters. We've heard
It's the
all the
reach.
time.
The reach.
So it's just, we gotta do it.
Right? For me, I think it's exposure to the mothership, because you can kind of get lost in the individual personalities of any of the offices. And if you ever get around to the other market centers, they do have their own personalities. And when you get into that environment, you see why Keller Williams is the #1 real estate company worldwide, because Gary and the other leadership are awesome and know more about real estate than we could ever dream of. So,
He's so
Yeah.
smart.
and they're willing to share.
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Everybody everywhere is just
Mhm.
willing to share. So,
Yeah, I
the
get,
culture.
so yeah, I had a blast with you guys. It was super fun. You too. It was great. Okay. But so I went last year and now I went this year. And this year I was really intentional about finding the things that maybe weren't just the main events, but like going to that mastermind. And then I also did a different happy hour with a different group, just to like put yourself in different rooms to like, I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons you go there, right? Like to meet people and to find different ideas and that type of thing. And so I went there this year with like, oh, I'm gonna go check these other things out, even though I'm totally out of my comfort zone. I was real nervous that day before the afternoon mastermind, but
I feel like at one point she was like, I just don't even know where it is. Should I even go? And I was like, just go ask someone. And she's like, yeah, I could do that.
And she was so excited that she went.
Yeah. She did. She was like, know where it is. I was like, well, why don't you go ask for it? She's like, oh, yeah.
There are amazing masterminds and
Are.
courses at family reunion and mega camp for the entire team.
Also
I mean,
networking with
that's why
those
it's for
people, right? So
Yeah.
it's like when you have a question, you can email them, you have their information and you can network with them.
Yeah, and I came back and I was like, this is amazing. People are doing crazy things. Like, I didn't even know this was out there. And like, how can that help, just a lot of people in this office. So I did, but that would be my takeaway. Like, if you're gonna go do it, go and be intentional about different things that you could absorb while you're there. Because man, it was really cool. Just even outside the normal Gary Keller stuff, which is awesome. But there are so many opportunities.
My highlight, was I was just really proud of our office. There were a lot of other offices there that, we had people coming to our dinners and hanging out with us, but we were a team, like we were a group and it was really fun. And I think, that's something you can't replicate, right? And that's why I want to see more people there, right? Because it builds something very different. It builds a bond, where you can have tough conversations or you can have growth conversations without it being awkward or strange. And I was really grateful for the people that came. And it's not easy, but it's well worth it. So that was my highlight. And my other highlight is I got to spend a lot of time with John. I got to know John on a completely different level. Poor guy helped me move one room to the next. And I was like, I don't know what the room looks like. It's fine. Okay. All right. Well, come on in, John. But it was really fun. I don't know if, Kevin wanted to say anything or not. Right, he's online, but. Okay, all right. Well, thanks for coming. And if you have further questions, ask everyone that was up here. We'd love to share. And if you want to go to family reunion, let me know.
There you go.
Yeah.